Hello, and welcome to hopefully a new series, depending on how it does. Anyway, I will be trying to help newcomers to Master Duel and trying to maybe even get them interested in deck building, but that's a very, very far goal to reach. Anyway, so today's episode, I guess, is going to be on hand traps. Hand traps are sort of a very, very important part of Yu-Gi-Oh! These days. And they're basically a way to say no to your opponent during the first turn. That is the most important part of hand traps. So you can stop them comboing for 20 minutes straight, 15 minutes straight, and actually have a chance to win the game. So it's basically anti-fun strategy, but you're kind of stealing the fun from your opponent, if that makes sense. Anyway, also some of them counter each other. We'll get into that. First, I have to talk about the biggest problem. Actually, I'll first talk about what is a hand trap. Hand trap, as it suggests, is a card that is activated from the hand, or usually by discarding, majority by discarding, but some of them you can also activate from the hand. But basically, you can activate it on the first turn, which is the most important part. And I'm going to give a simplified explanation to each of them. Hopefully, this will help you guys. Anyway, so I'm going to start with Maxi. Simple explanation. Activate this, and whenever your opponent special summons, which is quite a lot usually, you draw a card. Simple card, but it's very, very strong. A bit too strong in my opinion. And usually, when you get into more competitive decks and stuff like that, at least a quarter of your deck is trying to play around this specific card, which is crazy to me. But anyway, next, I guess if we're going down in popularity, would be Ash Blossom. This card, basically, when your opponent does something with the deck, that's not a good way to say it, when they try to add a card from the deck to their hand, you say no. It also special summon and send cards to the graveyard, but the most people do with this is counter the cockroach we were talking about. Anyway, yeah, so any card from deck to anywhere but the banished just stops that immediately. Next is Imperm. I guess you can put Imperm and Veiler in the same column. When your monster activates a monster effect on the field, you can activate either of this to negate the effect. The only difference being, well, the main difference being, is that you can only activate this in the main phase, your opponent's main phase, Effect Veiler in opponent's main phase. But this you can activate anytime, and if it's set, it does other stuff, but we're focusing on the hand trap portion right now. Okay, we did these. I guess we can go into Nibiru. This card is great. This card is... I really like this card. It basically means it's not just special summons, which is great. So if your opponent summons 5 times, you basically destroy the whole board. 5 or more, my apologies. You destroy the whole board. You get this, and they get a token of... they just get a token in replacement. the attack and defense of the token is the monster's attack and defense, but that have been tributed. But it basically, if you can time this correctly, it stops the plays, which is great, I think. And it also adds like a complexity to the game, like a mind game of sorts. If you have to see, you have to play around this sometimes, so you would summon 4 times instead of 5 to make sure that they can't Nibiru your board. Okay, so Bystials. I should probably add the other Bystials. These 3 dragons, they all have separate effects, but the Bystial effect is the first part, which is just banish a light or dark from either graveyard and summon this. They all have it, as you can see. These are quite popular these days because 90% of the decks in Master Duel are light or dark. Such as Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon. But these cards are really good. You can basically stop your opponent from special summoning from the grave, and you get the 2500 attack body on the board. I don't know. It's a really good card, but I'm not a big fan of it. I run it in most decks, but I don't feel like this is quite fun. It achieves too much, I guess. Okay. So next is D-Shifter. D-Shifter basically just stops graveyard plays. Any graveyard plays. The problem being you need to draw it on your first turn, which is not the best. Sometimes it's great, sometimes other than its effect, you're not going to be normal summoning this. Unless you have a deck specifically for that, but it basically makes your graveyard turn into the banished, which most things can't activate their effects, such as the cockroach. Anyway, the final, well, sort of the final, I'll get into evenly matched in a bit. Ghost Ogre. This is a niche card that you don't see very often. I think people should play this more, to be honest. I don't have a copy right now, but I don't have enough to craft, so it's fine. It's whenever something affects on the field, whenever an effect is activated on the field, say no to it. And destroy it. The destroy part is the biggest part. In my opinion. Yeah. And I guess Evenly is sort of a hand trap. Evenly is great for going second. Evenly is a hand trap if you're going third. Or if you drew it off of another effect on turn 2. But if it's too complicated, speed through this part. It basically makes it so your opponent controls the same amount of monsters, same amount of cards as you have on your field. Of course, if you activate this on turn 2, when your opponent has gone full out, and it's your turn, and you have this, you go to the battle phase, activate this, then your opponent will only draw one card, have one card on the field, which you can play around. It's a great card. The reason why I call this a hand trap is because you can activate it from your hand if you don't control any cards. I just had to put this in. New players going second. This card is going to feel amazing. To activate this, you have to go to your battle phase, and then you end main phase 2, and then the activation prompt will come up. Anyways, I've been talking for 10 minutes now. I'll see what I can do. Anyway, if you guys like this sort of thing, do whatever the YouTube stuff is. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not dead. Bye.